My brother was one of the thousands of families who lost their home entirely to the Eaton fire in Altadena, Southern California last year, and they are rebuilding. So this is our visit to go see how progress is coming along, and don't forget to stay till the very end for a special visit with a neighbor. We are here in Southern California, sunny Los Angeles. We are with my very own brother, Bren, who is one of the, how many homes would you say burned in the fire?
In the Eaton fire in Altadena, they lost, I think, 5,000 families and 7,000 structures. It was something like that.
Okay.
And then Palisades was another. It was a little less. So Palisades might have been 6,000. So it was like 13,000 total, something like that.
Well over 10,000 families lost their homes in those fires just a year and 3 months ago, something like that. My brother's family is one of those families, so their home burned completely. The only thing that remained was there a chimney that survived?
We did have a chimney. Yeah, they all looked like that. It was basically a chimney on every lot.
Although there were weird spotty homes that made it that somehow didn't burn, with I guess the only explanation being that the fire moved so fast that...
There's one directly below us that you'll see that made it because the wind was coming off the hills, kind of from north to south. And because of where that home sits below us, I think the winds blew over it.
Okay. And we're so fast and things burned and the fuel was gone so quickly that there wasn't a long smoldering. It kept coming back. It was just...
The fuel was not trees. Although the palm trees would burn at the top and they would whip embers. The embers were what lit 90% of the things on fire, but the fuel density of that house is way higher than a tree.
Right. And these were built long enough ago that the codes that have grown up in the last 20 or 30 years just didn't exist. Yeah.
And it was not a wealthy neighborhood.
Were houses mostly insulated, and with what?
Ours had only, like blown insulated in the attic. We didn't have any insulation in the walls.
Okay.
And that would have been typical, I think.
Yeah, which makes every wall cavity a chimney that's just going to transmit the fire higher. Yep. And I'm going to guess that blown in stuff might actually be flammable.
Probably was. Yeah. It was whenever it was blown in there. And we were probably built in the 50s.
Yeah.
And it was built, our house was built, for example, maybe it was a smidge before 1950, but they built it themselves without any approvals. Right? And then they went in and filed it and said, well, we built a house already.
It's done.
It's done, and can we get it recognized?
Is there even an inspector? Yeah, probably not.
No, there wouldn't have been. And it was because it was a kind of a poorer neighborhood. Everybody was able to just, inspectors were bribed for years. Everything was built illegal.
Right.
That's the whole...
not naming any names.
Anyway. Yeah, so...
So what we're doing right now is, in terms of whether anybody ever got lucky, my brother happens professionally to work with contractors and builders and such on a fairly regular basis, and was pretty alert to the risk of those trades getting booked out and needing to move quickly and needing to just get started. And so we are going to go look at a house that is basically already all framed. Windows are on site but not yet installed. Mm-hmm. Roof deck is up, although not yet shingled. Mm-hmm. Is that right? So it's going to look like most of a house. A lot of systems yet to go in, but that is where we are on the way today, and we're excited. And the other thing I wanted to touch on was when, in the immediate aftermath of the fire, my brother's sister-in-law put up a GoFundMe page and people contributed, which was exceptionally generous, but I was so impressed by your response when you wound it down and then also wrote to our family, our relatives, to be appreciative for what support people had so freely and readily given. And I thought that was just exceptionally meaningful, the philosophy that you shared about where you guys were on needing help.
Yeah, there was one. It hurts a little bit to need help and to take help, And there was a young person who was a coworker of mine at work at the time. She had 2 kids, a husband. They were living on their grandparents' property that they'd probably owned for 50 years or however long. And she just didn't have the same, just by her age, didn't have the same social connections or family size, let's say, as well. Is probably a big factor. Didn't have the same resources, didn't have the same network of people that could help with that. So yeah, that was, you see that and you realize how much is luck and chance and so forth. And I took that as a opportunity to try and spread that around our work, because there's probably half dozen, 8 people, something like that had lost their homes at our workplace. So those all got shared. All those GoFundMe's got shared.
Oh, I understand. So like pooling tips almost.
Yeah, everybody, they communicated, hey, these are the people that have lost their homes.
Right.
And here's where their GoFundMe's are.
Right. Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, we didn't take all that money.
Yeah.
We weren't commingling money, but
Okay.
at least making sure that everybody was aware of everybody else's place. And I work at a financial firm. There's some people there with real money. So like the head of the firm gave everybody $5,000, and that's great,
Yeah.
But it was important to make sure that everybody got that exposure to because there's a lot of people on a trade floor or whatever that would be like, hey, I'll send you $100 or $500 or, that's not a ton of money to them. They're very well off, and, they stepped up. So it was a way to compensate for what I was being given at the time, and the guilt that you have a little bit about receiving stuff that you need.
Which is its own funny topic. The guilt, the guilt that you feel. It might come from being Irish, but
I'm sure it does, and how we were raised. But and we've had this conversation with 20 different people, and everybody has the same perspective. There were people that lost their lives. So there was, I forget, might have been 17 people in the Eaton fire that died. The guy across the street from us did. He was 96 and had grown up on that land.
And he didn't leave. Is that part of that
He
story?
didn't leave. He just went to sleep and took his hearing aids out. So the assumption is that he wouldn't have heard anything. Although they gave notices very late to a lot of our part of town. But
well, and if he died from smoke inhalation, then he might never have woken up. Never
that's
known.
that's what you hope. Yeah. Not a bad way to go if he didn't wake up, hopefully. But people that lost their lives are the ones with the real tragedies. People that lost their family fortunes, in effect, that would happen to be tied up in real estate, and that might have been underinsured because it was quite an old neighborhood. That's the second major tragedy. And then there's everybody else that just got massively inconvenienced. We fall into the third bucket, and you're just not in the same class of impact as the first 2 buckets.
Right.
And everybody knew it,
Yeah. All right. Well, next step, we will actually get ourselves to the house and start looking around. Previously was a 1-story home, and so there was a little bit of an opportunity to use the same footprint but get a second story.
This way,
And let's walk on in. All right.
come on in.
Right now it feels like one of those movie set facade. So this open area is
The whole downstairs
kitchen and
couch, seating area, dining table of some kind, and then kitchen on that side.
okay. How's our view?
It's terrible today, but
Pool, the only thing that survived.
yeah, it has fish to eat the mosquito larvae.
Fantastic. Still going to be a great view. There's some mowing to do. But yeah, 90% of the area is what he was saying is what got wiped out. You can see new framed houses going that way. So people are getting closer. Most of the construction should get done in 3 years. You plan for 5 or 6, but the hope for everybody who's out of their home is to be able to have a place to get in. These guys are hoping to get in for Thanksgiving. And then let's turn it around and look at the second story from here, and those will be bedrooms and bathrooms which they did not previously have. Now let's go see the neighbor. Here's the other side of the construction site. Spectacular. And there is an albino peacock right up there as well. That is not a typical everyday sight. They are the neighborhood watch committee for this house going up. How about that, though? And I assume those two are connected. Look at that display.